Religion. We're going to talk about religion tonight, so that'll be extremely uncomfortable and controversial for pretty much everybody. But we're going to talk some religion. We're going to talk about the impeachment of Donald Trump and why you're seeing so much of what you're seeing right now. And we're going to do all that coming up next on I'm Right. Religion. Do you have one? Do you know somebody who has one? All right, the answer to those two questions, at least one of those two is yes. And here's what it is about your religion, whatever that religion may be. It governs everything in your life, doesn't it? If you're really a devout Christian, Jew, Muslim, whatever the case may be, but I'll use Christianity here. If you're a devout Christian, the words in the Bible, God's word, they define every part of your life, or at least you try to. Of course, you probably screw that up a bunch. Who doesn't? But your guiding principles, they're all right there. They're laid out for you. And what would you do as a Christian for God? What would you do to pursue something like that? What would you do to pursue the things that you believe God has laid out for you in his Bible? Anything, right? I mean, it's God. Probably the answer. So when he asks you to do something in general, the answer should be yes. Otherwise, you're eaten by a whale. But you know what I mean. The answer is yes, because it's your religion. Why do you think nations in the history of mankind, all of them, really have, do we want to call them state religions? At least a predominant national religion? I've told you this story before, so sorry, it's a little gruesome. I know it's a family show, but let me just lay this out for you here. You know the Aztecs? You know, the native tribe in Mexico, Cortez and the Spanish took over. The Aztecs used to take not only adults, they would take children and hurt them on purpose so they would cry and then lay them down on a slab and cut out their hearts. Kids. You couldn't touch a kid, I hope. I could never hurt a kid. But they would do this not once or twice and not hidden in the basement. They would do this on top of a gigantic temple with the entire town around cheering and cheering. Now, were these people demons? No. They were just like you and I. So how could you do something like that? Your religion. Their religion told them that's what their gods wanted. Therefore, they can do whatever they want. It is important for you to realize, as I've told you before, leftism, communism, whatever you want to call it. I call it communism, that's what it is. It is a religion. It is not a political ideology. You have a political ideology. You believe in general government should be smaller, taxes should be low, be smart with people's money. That's what you believe. That's a political ideology, right? You're probably pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, a little stronger on the border. I'm a lot stronger on the border. That's another story. But you have this list of things, and that's your political ideology. But when you get with your buddies on the weekend, watch some football, you probably don't bring it up much. That's because it's not your religion. It doesn't govern every part of your life. Leftism is a religion. That's why, for 4 years, they acted like Donald Trump was a Nazi dictator. I mean, you heard all the horrible things they said, because it wasn't really about Donald Trump. It was about a heretic defying their religion, hampering the advancement of their religion, and you can't withstand that, right? It governs every part of you. And we're actually going to come back to this a little later on in the show. And that's why you'll see now they'll excuse everything for Joe Biden. Every mistake, every lie, every scandal, all of it. They'll excuse it all. Why? It's not because they're bad people. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. He's helping their religion. He's helping their religion. You don't do things like fact check the man who's helping your religion.
And just compare and contrast the reaction and response you got from the incoming administration to what you've gotten over the last several years.
Well, in the case of the Biden-Harris transition team, we identified 5 factual statements he made, interesting claims that we wanted to know if what was the basis for this. Within 15 minutes, we received citations to those factual statements, and they all checked out. Um, Generally, the Trump White House almost never responded to our queries because, of course, a lot of what the president said could not be defended or explained in terms of where he got these so-called facts. I assume the Biden, I did 5 years of Obama, and I assume the Biden presidency will be a lot like the Obama presidency in that they will be responsive and will be able to quickly back up what they're saying. And occasionally the president will go off kilter, particularly when he's, speaking extemporaneously and not following something that a script that had previously been fact-checked.
It's not a lie. He's just going to go off kilter. That's all. They can't fact check him. He's helping their religion. And there's another part of religion. A religion has to be fully committed, as they were with Trump, to destroying its opposition. Have you seen any of this Army Ranger, not an Army Ranger stuff that's popped up about who? Tom Cotton. You see this? First of all, there was a headline from Salon, of all places. I can't believe I'm showing that on my show. Senator Tom Cotton campaigned on his experience as an Army Ranger, but he didn't have any. Of course, Tom Cotton responds quickly because that's Tom Cotton's style. Senator Cotton graduated from Ranger School and is more of a Ranger than a Salon reporter like you will ever be. And then we have this idiot Democrat, Jason Crow. He's an elected representative. Senator Cotton, unless you were one of those berets, and yes, you wore one of those berets, you shouldn't be calling yourself a Ranger. Truth matters. But Hugh Hewitt, the great Hugh Hewitt, as he does oftentimes, put it this way really well. Quote, I've interviewed Senator Tom Cotton almost weekly for 8 years. He's rightly proud of his service with the 101st in Baghdad and with the Old Guard, and of his Ranger tab from Ranger School, but never confused units or his service, never claimed to have served in a Ranger unit, scurrilous attack. Now, I don't expect you to actually care about whether Tom Cotton was a Ranger or not. This is stupid, petty political stuff. But who are the names you've seen, especially since the Capitol raid? Who are the names you've seen loudly going after censorship, loudly going after big tech, loudly defending people who were at the rally, not in the Capitol building, but at the rally? Who are the names? Cruz, Cotton, Hawley. Those are the DC names. Don't think it's an accident by a long shot that these are the people the system is now going after. Hawley is now getting blasted. Cruz is getting blasted by these bizarre articles that seem to come out of nowhere. That's what religions do to heretics, isn't it? Historically, even my own religion, Christianity, some ugly parts there where things got twisted around and kind of burned some people alive. That's what religions do to heretics. And that's what happens when you challenge the system too much. And I have to say this before I get to this, this Joe Biden Catholic thing. Future Republican leaders, wannabe Republican leaders, whether you're a mayor, governor, senator, congressman, whether you want to be president of the United States, if they're not going after you like that, if the system isn't going after you like that, you need to have a serious self-examination and figure out what you're doing wrong, because the system only goes after people who threaten it. And if you're not threatening it, you're useless. Go back to the bleachers. Now, look, what else do you do with your religion? You celebrate your God. Quote, I'm not making this up. This is from the New York Times. President Biden is perhaps the most religiously observant commander-in-chief in half a century. A different, more liberal Christianity grounds his life and his policies. But wait, what's that old saying? Wait, there's more. This is from the New Yorker. Quote, President Joe Biden's non-doctrinaire Catholicism is driving comparisons to Pope Francis, who has vexed traditionalist U.S. bishops much the way Biden has. Who talks like this? I'm not a Catholic, so the Pope, I don't pay any attention to him anyway, but I understand that's a major religious figure. Who looks at a new president and says, he reminds me of the Pope? Lastly, I did want to address this. They're talking about changing the $20 bill. Here's what they'd say.
The Trump administration, the Obama administration initially had wanted to put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. The Trump administration dragged their feet on that. I wanted to see if the Biden administration has a sort of view of the timeline on whether or not she should be on the paper currency.
I was here when we announced that, and it was very exciting. It hasn't moved forward yet, which we would have been surprised to learn at the time. The Treasury Department is taking steps to resume efforts to put Harriet Tubman on the front of the new $20 notes. It's important that our notes, our money, if people don't know what a note is, reflect the history and diversity of our country.
All right, we're going to set aside the has to reflect the diversity thing. Let me explain something to you really briefly. Nothing has to reflect diversity. Diversity is a nice byproduct. Let's reflect accomplishment. That said, I'm torn on this one, and this is what I mean. Harriet Tubman was a boss. That lady was awesome. If you don't know anything about Harriet Tubman's story, the things she did, the bravery she showed, probably earned a spot on the $20 bill. At the same time, do you know Andrew Jackson allowed himself to be shot in the chest once? I'm not making this up. He was taking on the best dueler around. The guy killed, I believe, 26 men by this point in time. The best dueler around challenged Andrew Jackson's honor. And so Jackson challenges the guy to a duel. Jackson knows he's not faster than the guy. He knows he can't beat him. So he puts on this gigantic coat, several sizes too big, and they walk off the duel. Jackson turns, the other guy turns. Jackson allows himself to get shot in the chest first, hoping the size of the coat will cause the guy to miss his heart, which it did. Jackson then in turn guns the guy down and wins the fight. Maybe he should stay on the $20 bill. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I'm right. Now, I hate thieves. You who've watched the show for a long time know. I know I'm a bad person, but there's something about thievery. I hate it. I hate it with every fiber of my being. That's why I love Home Title Lock. Because to think that right now there are cyber thieves across the country finding home titles just like yours. They're all online. Yours is online. Hacking into them, forging signatures on them, and making off with tons of money that you now have to pay back. It grades on me. I hate it. I love it. I love the fact that when they're going to hack into yours, they're going to get stopped because of Home Title Lock. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. That's HomeTitleLock.com. Use the promo code RADIO. Get 30 days for free. We got a great show. We'll be back. It's a religion. Look, this impeachment is insane on all fronts. If you're a Democrat, let's say you're a card-carrying Democrat, and all you want is more Democrats to get elected. Why are you trying to impeach the last guy? He's gone. Your job now, remember, the party in power, whenever a president has the House, Senate, and presidency, whenever you have all three of those in the beginning, historically, it shows you will lose the House in the midterms. That's just the country doesn't like one-party rule. They instinctively can only blame that one party, and they will vote for the opposite party just, as a matter of course. So if you know that when you're Democrats, why are you going to impeach the last guy with some month-long show trial? Why? No swing voters looking at that and thinking, nice, no more Trump, who was already gone. And if you're a Republican, one of these idiot Republicans, we'll get to them in a minute, you know you're going to get a third party started, right? And then you'll never win again. That's what's happening right now. These DC Republicans do not understand the anger out there on the right. And they do not understand the feeling of injustice out there. And dragging the president, so many of them love, back for a trial is absurd. I drove through a neighborhood this weekend and somebody had taken a pressure washer and pressure washed Trump 2024 into the side of his fence. It was like 35 feet long. I'm not alone. I put that out there on social media. People were telling me all over the place they're seeing things like this. Donald Trump may have lost the election, Maybe the American people were sick of him. Not all of them. There are a lot of hardcore Donald Trump fans out there. Maybe don't poke him in the ribs right now. But instead we have Chuck Schumer, who's trying to torpedo his own party.
The Senate will also conduct a second impeachment trial for Donald Trump. I've been speaking to the Republican leader about the timing and duration of the trial, but make no mistake, a trial will be held in the United States Senate, and there will be a vote on whether to convict the president.
I'll never understand it. But okay, let's set that aside. I mean, Chuck Schumer's a moron. That's not news. Chuck Schumer's always been a moron. Our own people? I mean, Mitt Romney? Here's Mitt Romney.
Do you think it was appropriate that he was impeached by the House?
Well, yes, I believe that what is being alleged and what we saw, which is incitement to insurrection, is an impeachable offense. If not, what is? It continues a pattern that the president had of trying to corrupt the election by his communication with Ukraine, by trying to corrupt the election with regards to the lie that he's been spreading over the last several months, and then, if you will, firing up a crowd and encouraging them to march on the Capitol at the time that the Congress was carrying out its constitutional responsibility to certify the election.
Was that a Republican on the screen? Because those all sounded like Democrat talking points to me. This is our own people. Our own people are dooming us. At least we have Senator Marco Rubio, who I've had a million disagreements with. At least he seems to have some idea what's going on out there.
Well, first of all, I think the trial is stupid. I think it's counterproductive. We already have a flaming fire in this country, and it's like taking a bunch of gasoline and pouring it on top of the fire. The first chance I get to vote to end this trial, I'll do it, because I think it's really bad for America. If you want to hold people accountable, there's other ways to do it, particularly for presidents, including, as I said, the perspective of history, and even now as people are learning more about all this. But it's really bad. When you talk about situations like this is not a criminal justice trial. This is a political process. And ultimately, it is a political process that's going to inject things into our public discourse, into our debates. That's going to make it harder to get important things done, and is just going to continue to fuel these divisions that have paralyzed the country and have turned us into a country of people that hate each other.
It has. And that's what's driven me so crazy about all this is you see all the bad things they've been doing. And I've been warning about it. It's not like they don't know. Stop doing this, stop doing this, stop doing this. People are getting mad. People are getting divided. They're all doubling down on everything. And not just the idiot leftists, the Republicans. They're all doubling down on everything that has torn this place apart. And now, I cannot put into words how bad of an idea an impeachment trial is. It is a terrible idea. Now, remember we talked about Tom Cotton and how the system's going after him? They're going after Josh Hawley, too, who is doing what? Fighting back. Remember, the new right must play offense. Never apologize, never defense, only offense. Here's what Josh Hawley had to say. Quote, this was in the New York Post. It's time to stand up against the muzzling of America, end quote. And, you know, Josh Hawley, he's getting in trouble with his fellow senators for questioning the integrity of the election. What's he doing? Is he sitting back, sitting on his hands? I'm sorry, guys. I'll try to do better next time. Nope. Josh Hawley's calling for an ethics investigation into the Democrats who filed the complaint against him. That's how you play offense. One, quote, the idea that one senator who disagrees with another senator can therefore have that senator punished, sanctioned, censured, and removed is utterly antithetical to our democracy and the very idea of open, lawful debate. Quote, in light of the shameful abuse of the ethics process you have deliberately engaged in, I have considered whether I should call for you to resign or be expelled from the Senate. But I continue to believe in the First Amendment, which has the U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly said protects even offensive and malicious speech such as yours. Yes, Republicans, yes. I understand this makes people uncomfortable. It does. So, look, sometimes, believe it or not, it makes me uncomfortable. Offense only, never defense, never apologize, never pause for a moment and defend yourself against attacks from the left. That's all we ever do anymore. Oh, you're a white supremacist. No, I'm not. I am not. No more of that ever. ever. Offense only. Only play offense. All right, we got more. Hang on. Well, not all members of Congress are completely useless. By the grace of God, we have some freshman congressmen who are actually intent on doing something about the left. One of them is about to join us. First, I want to talk about her tweet here. A quote, I've introduced 3 bills this week. 1, a bill to prevent funding for the Paris Accord. 2, a bill to halt funding to the WHO until we hold them accountable for their role in COVID. And 3, a bill to overturn Biden's mask mandate. Biden can try to ruin our country, but I will push back. My goodness, joining me now, Lauren Boebert, congressman from Colorado. Why are you actually trying to do something? Aren't you supposed to just go there and sit around?
It's weird. That seems to be the trend, but I promised the voters that I would go to D.C. and hold these people accountable, that I would expose the corruption, and I would actually work for the people in Colorado's 3rd district. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Of course, we're in the minority, so I don't know how far these pieces of legislation will go, but I'm not going to stop trying. I'm not going to sit back and just ride along. I'm here to actually get things done for America and try to keep this the land of opportunity and to keep the American dream alive.
What's the coolest thing about being a new congressman? Be honest. Do they cater good food or something? Do you have like a bunch of security guards? What is it?
Well, the coolest thing was not having to walk through a metal detector, but of course, government ruins nearly everything, and Speaker Pelosi just installed more magnetometers, so now I can't bypass those anymore. She ruined the one good thing I liked about Congress.
Of course. Are you getting support from our own party, pushback? I'm not worried about the left. I know they're scumbags. Our own party. Are you getting, hey, let's keep doing this, keep it up, or are you getting trashed on back there?
No, I have full support. My base supports me. The GOP supports me. I'm doing exactly what I promised that I would do. So I have my base behind me, which is all that I really care about. I don't care about the trash talk that comes from the left. I kind of considered letting them know when I brushed my teeth this morning, I didn't first run my toothbrush under the faucet to see what kind of weird comments I would get from that. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of backlash from that kind of activity. But I'm proud to be doing what I said I would do. And I'm proud to have taken a stand in upholding the Constitution and standing for election integrity. And I wish more of the Democrat members would actually put their efforts and focus on things like that, rather than these conspiracy theories that freshman Congressman Lauren Boebert ran a recon mission in the halls of Congress. If they would actually focus on the things that matter for Americans, we might be able to get something done.
Now, are you a toothbrush, toothpaste, and then wet it person, or do you wet the toothbrush and then put the toothpaste on?
Well, so normally I would wet it, apply the toothpaste, wet it again. And today I didn't do either of those. And I felt it as soon as I, like, what is happening here? What kind of weird altered universe is this? And I was like, gosh, don't let the Democrats know. Who knows what kind of onslaught will take place.
All right. What can we do? People are obviously scared. I'm sure you're hearing from your constituents. People are scared. They're nervous. They're bummed out. We're out of power right now. We feel a bit helpless. What can be done to stop them from tearing through this place?
Well, first of all, know that these attacks are not unique to any conservative member of Congress. These attacks are coming towards Representative Andy Biggs, the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, the most reasonable man in Washington, D.C. These attacks are coming at Paul Gosar and Louis Gohmert and Madison Cawthorn, and of course they're coming at me. So know that they're not unique. This is straight out of the Democrat playbook. The DCCC, they have their Oppo research on us, and they just throw the reporters the book and say, here you go, have at them. Other than that, I would say get involved. Get involved locally. In Glenwood Springs today, this is the last day to sign up to run for city council. And it's all incumbents right now who are running. So don't complain about the problems if you're not going to step up and do something, or get behind people who have stepped up. Support good candidates. Right now, I'm the most vulnerable that I could be. I just won my first election and I have the Democrats coming after me. So I need good people to get behind me and support me. And they could do that at laurenforfreedom.com. But get behind people on all levels, not just these big federal races. And most of all, don't give up. Americans are resilient. This is the most exceptional nation that this world has ever seen, and we will continue to be exceptional. And so don't give up. We're going to win this in the end. I'm a Christian, and I've read the end of the book. We win.
Lauren, we have this absurd impeachment trial coming up. And I know that's not on you. That's already out of the House. It's out of your hands now. It's in the Senate. And whatever people think about right or wrong, I think it's such a tremendous mistake for any Republican who goes along with it. I think they are fracturing the party. I think they're helping the left kneecap the party. I just think this whole thing is a horrible mistake by everybody.
Absolutely. And we actually saw that in the House with 10 Republicans who signed on to this. And whether they agree with President Trump and his words or his actions, it didn't justify this snap sham impeachment. We all know that they were rushing this through as quickly as they could. The Democrats tried starting an impeachment before President Trump ever took office. I'm surprised we didn't go for a third impeachment while we were at it. But any senator that goes along with this is fracturing the party. And Republicans, we do stand for diversity of thought, and we have our own opinions. But this is just wrong on all fronts. There's nothing unifying about impeaching a man who has already peacefully left the White House. This is the Democrats' hypocrisy on full display. And if we've learned anything, you don't gain any ground by appeasing to the Democrats' demands. You don't gain anything by being sympathetic to their cause, apologizing to them, or taking their side and defending them and their absurd actions to destroy and divide our country. Their hypocrisy is on full display. They have spent 2020 normalizing, funding, and encouraging violence. They have bailed criminals out of jail to get them back on the streets as quickly as possible. And now we have another 5 straight days of Antifa, who I thought was just a myth or an idea. But once again, this myth and idea is burning down American cities.
Lauren, explain this to me. Joe Biden gets in there and he cancels the Keystone Pipeline right away. And I know that, the energy sector is so huge for this country. Okay, I get maybe he's a left-wing nut job, maybe he's not, maybe it's just the people around him. But he knows, as president, he just sat down and killed jobs. That's somebody's livelihood. Are these people all sociopaths back there? Do they not care? I thought I was a bad person.
I thought so too. No. I don't know what he's thinking there. I don't know what he's thinking there. But we finally were energy independent here in America and said we would rather outsource to our enemies and be dependent on communist dictators for our energy. We would rather outsource to China and Africa, where child and slave labor is often used. We would rather put our children at risk, knowing that losing that energy independence here in our country puts them at risk at fighting foreign wars later on in the future. So the jobs that are lost, it's obviously very devastating, but this has very long-term effects. The Paris Climate Accord that he unilaterally joined, once again, it was bad in 2016. It's bad now. It needs Senate ratification, and he knows that it needs that, and that's why he won't send it there, because it won't happen. And so he just put us back in with the stroke of a pen, and it's unfortunate how many lives have been affected since Joe Biden assumed office, since he took office just a few short days ago. Our energy industry is it definitely was already struggling, and now it's being depleted.
Congressman Lauren Boebert, Colorado. Keep fighting the good fight. I appreciate you. Thanks. I'm glad you got to come on.
Thanks, Jesse.
All right. We'll be back. Well, the COVID stuff. I remember, I feel like it was just yesterday, Joe Biden was criticizing Donald Trump about his COVID. He had said something like, we're 8 months into this pandemic, and Donald Trump still doesn't have a plan to get this virus under control. And then these last 2 words really threw me for a loop. He said, I do. Well, that's weird because this is what Joe Biden had to say over the weekend.
If we fail to act, there will be a wave of evictions and foreclosures in the coming months as this pandemic rages on, because there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory of the pandemic in the next several months.
Weird. To talk about that and other things, Republican strategist and hopefully future head of the RNC, Joseph Pinion III. Joseph, does he have a plan? Does their plan just suck? Is he moving the goalposts? What's the actual story here?
Well, look, I think the American people are getting a bird's eye view of what the Joe, what am I signing Biden presidency is going to look like. This is a man who had a secret plan to fight racism. He had a secret plan to fight COVID. Come to find out that once you give him the job, the prestige of the magic trick is that there is no plan inside the box. And so that's what we're dealing with right now. You have to confront the reality that the same Democrats who spent the last year decimating people's way of life with lockdowns because apparently walking outside your home was going to kill you. Suddenly, at the height of the COVID virus, where more people are dying faster than ever before, suddenly want to open the gates, open the doors, and let everyone go back to work, allegedly, because suddenly now, if Joe Biden's president, COVID no longer has an impact. So this is just the insane hypocrisy that we're dealing with. They've been playing political games with our lives. And now people have to confront the harsh reality that Joe Biden is no longer in control. The tail is wagging the dog, and the worst is yet to come.
Joseph, you're a political strategist, one of the sharpest guys I have on this show. So you see this. Now, I can see this. I have to talk about it for a living. But you and I both know you don't win elections, and I don't win elections. The average, less attentive, if you want to call it that, voter wins and loses elections. Are they seeing it? Are they not seeing it yet? Are they already having buyer's remorse? What are they seeing?
Well, they're seeing the theater of the presidency. That's why Joe Biden trots out a $15 minimum wage for all federal employees. Number one, most of your uninformed, low information voters believe that applies to everyone universally. It does not. It just applies to people who work for the federal government. And that obscures the fact that the average federal employee is making over $85,000 a year. So the $15 minimum wage doesn't really impact a great many people, but the theater of a $15 minimum wage gets all the people in the base excited whose news source consists entirely of what they get on their Twitter feed. So this is just, again, more par for the course. If we're going to build back better, as Joe Biden says we need to, then we need to be focused on making sure we're getting Americans back to work, that we're actually having a vaccination process that works, and holding the governors who demanded control of the vaccination process wall to wall, like Governor Newsom in California and Governor Cuomo in New York, accountable for the fact that they have failed to get the job done and people have died as a direct result of their negligence.
Joseph, I don't get upset often. But when I see governors doing exactly what we worried they were going to do, which is now opening up their economies now that Joe Biden's president, that I don't know how you're supposed to take that any other way other than governors intentionally ruined people's lives so they could win a presidential election. And that's so far beyond politics. That is evil in my mind. I hope enough people can see how truly insidious that is.
Let's just be very clear here. I don't get to tell people what to think. That's the beauty of America. But if you were of the position that 3 months ago, 4 months ago, we needed to be on lockdowns, and there is literally no scientific basis or logical basis for you to believe that the government should be open now, other than the fact that your basis for having the government locked down was political and not scientific. And so there are 1 million people in New York State alone who lost their jobs because of lockdown policies that we now know were not rooted in science and rooted in politics of the actual COVID-19 response. That is extrapolated across this country, people whose livelihoods have been destroyed, life savings decimated because of the fact that many of the people who have done the right thing, who put money aside, who saved up to start a business, who invested in themselves and their families, were the people who bore the brunt of this pernicious virus because of policies put in place specifically to try to win a national election. And now we find ourselves at the end of that long rainbow. There is no gold, just a lump of coal, and the American people who are going to be stuck trying to rebuild for years and years and years to come.
Joseph, we're going to switch gears here and talk about this impeachment thing. I actually don't know your thoughts on it. We haven't talked about it yet. I see it as such a stupid move by the Republican Party. Donald Trump is gone. Let him go. And yet we have all these senators, not an overwhelming amount, but we have these overwhelming senators. It's clear they're going to vote to convict the guy in the Senate trial. This is how you get a third party created. How can people not see that they should stop poking the Trump supporters in the ribs?
To be clear, President Trump is a private citizen. If you are of the opinion that he has broken the law, we have criminal courts, we have federal courts, we have civil courts, we have state courts, all of these things that are equipped with the tools to hold President Trump accountable if you believe he has done something untoward. We're really good at it. That's why we have an over-incarceration problem in America. The left can't stop talking about it. And yet somehow when it comes to President Trump, apparently the only way that we can hold him, quote unquote, accountable is through the trial of impeachment. And so let's be clear. This is not about cleansing the office. This is not about healing America. This is about leveraging the outcry that the left has for President Trump to try to hold on in a midterm that is historically bad for the people in power. That is all that is happening right now. This has nothing to do with any level of anything that happened at the Capitol on the 6th, as unseemly as that was. Because again, anything that you believe President Trump has done, there's a U.S. attorney for the Southern District, there's an attorney general for the state of New York, attorney general for the state of California, all of whom have indicated they are looking into activities of President Trump, either during his presidency or that predate his presidency, all of whom actually have the jurisdiction to do whatever they want to do and let the people, let a jury of Trump's peers decide if he's done something wrong. The Congress does not have the authority to fine President Trump, much less incarcerate him. So if you're really talking about alleged criminality, Congress is the last place to do it. And if you're talking about unity, Congress unequivocally is not equipped to unite this nation. And you certainly can't do it by tripling down on the divisive tactics that led us to this place in the first place.
Joseph, all else aside, it seems dumb politically, for lack of a more eloquent way to put it. I don't understand how in the bubble you have to be if you're a Democrat. I mean, let's say you're a scumbag like Chuck Schumer. How can you think it helps your party's chances in the midterms to waste another month of the people's time impeaching the guy who's already out of office? That seems like the average Joe would look at that and think these people are not serious.
Well, to be clear, COVID-19 came to our shores in January of last year. And in January of last year, while Democrats were yelling at President Trump for not having his eye on the ball, they themselves were too busy trying to remove him from office to deal with the threat that was coming from abroad. And now, at the height of the COVID-19 virus, where again, more people are dying than ever before, infection rates are higher than ever before, we have a new strand which has confounded some scientists. Democrats, again, would rather focus on the politics of removing the president, who, by the way, is no longer the president of the United States. So that is what we're dealing with right now. We're just completely untethered from reality. And if you're talking about the actual political sensibilities of all of this, the only thing Democrats are going to succeed in doing is hardening President Trump's base and making him a martyr for all time. And also in the process, likely making sure they lose the midterm. So that is what they're dealing with. And on our side of the aisle, I mean, we've got people who are suggesting we're going to start a third party. All a third party will do is usher in the type of socialist policies that keep us terrified in our beds at night, staring at the ceiling. So everyone has lost their minds. Cooler heads need to prevail. And we just have to get back to the point of actually saying if we're going to be conservatives and consistent, then we have to fight for our rights, have to fight for our values. And that includes making sure that we tell Democrats where they can put this impeachment, which is too bad, and in the past where it needs to be.
100%. And I don't disagree with you about the third party nonsense. But what I'm saying is, do Republicans not realize if they keep poking at the Trump people just because they're happy Trump is gone, they're going to guarantee a third party? It's coming. If they don't stop this, we have to purge Trumpism stuff. The third party's coming.
I think it just highlights how absent our political class is from the everyday people. If they think that somehow they're going to, bust out a wand like Men in Black and wipe Donald Trump from the minds of the American voters, I got news for you. It ain't going to work. So let's be very clear. Donald Trump is a fixture in the conservative movement, whether conservatives like it or not. He invited them into the home. He took over the House. He invited more people into the House. We were a more robust party, for better and for worse, because of President Trump. And so at this point, either you embrace what has been accomplished and build on it, or you proceed at your own peril and basically usher in the decimation of the conservative movement as we know it.
Joseph Pinion III, thank you, my man. I appreciate you.
Always, my friend. Talk soon.
We're still not done. Hang on. Every now and then we have to get serious on the show. There are very serious things that take place on the floor of the House of Representatives, on the floor of the Senate. These are where our legislators go to make laws that govern an entire nation. And so when something serious comes up, whether it be Democrat or Republican, we try to bring that to you on this show. So I thought you should all see this.
Make no mistake, there will be a trial, and when that trial ends, senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection against the United States.
I'll see you tomorrow.